What's up, Lucy fans? Netflix fan favorite show Lucifer is now back on its 5th season. Part 1 is now available for streaming. Here's my spoiler-free review for that. But before I begin, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to Screen Kings for weekly reviews on movies, TV, and video games. Now, by the end of Season 4, we know that Detective Chloe Decker has finally accepted the true identity of Lucifer and even went on to the lengths of professing her love for him. The honeymoon phase, however, is cut short as Lucifer makes this bold decision to descend back to hell to control his minions who are planning on an uprising against him. Now Season 5 kicks in with Detective Chloe trying to move on with her life without the devil, but if you've seen the trailer, you'll know that Lucifer will be back here, but not before his twin, Archangel Michael, tries to pose as him and wrecks all the pre-existing relationship he had with Chloe. More of that later. Now, I'm going to start off first with the things that I like about this season, and that has to do with character development. I think that's one of the aspects of the show that has been constantly improving. Lucifer is one of the shows that doesn't take itself seriously, but it takes its characters seriously, if you get what I mean. The 5th season was initially slated to be its final season before Netflix retracted that decision and decided to do another season, Season 6. Anyway, I felt like that the finality aspect into it gave the writers a room to throw more fun ideas and explore deeper into the psyche of the characters. I'm not going to say it's perfect. Take for example like the character of Lucifer. Throughout the show, Lucifer has been constantly consulting Dr. Linda, and you would like to think that this character would have much emotional maturity on understanding the human relationships and human behavior. However, the show keeps on undermining his character growth. But I'm not going to be hard on that because I think that is part of Lucifer's charm. As one character points out, Lucifer is the oldest immature person you'll ever meet, and Tom Ellis is just good at playing off his darkly humorous, narcissistic, and irresistible persona. For those who are heavily shipping for Decker Star to happen, what I can tell you is that there will be more intimate scenes between Lucifer and Decker. This season will be the payoff of the will they, won't they romance that the writers have patiently and arguably tediously built on the past seasons. However, one can make an argument that the actual build-up leading to the cathartic moments has more chemistry than the actual cathartic moment, or maybe that's just an unpopular opinion that I think, but that's certainly what I felt in those moments. Still, it feels gratifying at some level. As for the individual subplots, each one has their own fair share. For Decker, we know that in Season 2, Decker was made by God for Lucifer, so she has to deal on knowing that she is made for someone else. Of what does it feel like to be predestined for someone else? At first, you can initially dismiss that as a small thing, but when you actually realize that you have no ownership over your fate and your life, you will feel kind of betrayed. I think that's the main plight of Decker in this first arc of the season, and her faith not only in Lucifer but also in God gets tested. Then for Mace, a feisty demon who's known for her wild antics and sudden outbursts if the past season has explored her trying to fit into this human world, trying to find her place. Now this season tackles on her ancestry roots and also her plight on what it means to be a demon with no soul. Amenadiel and Linda try to deal with their co-parenting struggles as they try to raise their half-celestial, half-human son. Dan, on the other hand, takes this self-improvement lifestyle which plays out funny, and the other comic relief of the show, Ella, tries to figure out why she's not great at keeping relationships. So all in all, these characters are given a fair amount of treatment throughout the show. I believe that the backbone of this show is in its character relationships and the interpersonal struggles that they're dealing with. So Season 5 has really exhausted much on that aspect. On the other hand, Lucifer is also a part police procedural show, and Season 5 has maintained that case of the week approach, that is a different murder case for each episode. I think over the course of the series, the writers have found a better way to integrate these cases into their interpersonal dramas, which has grown organically and felt more natural to the episode. But here's my take on the police procedural aspect, because really there are two angles to look at it. For the cons side, most of the time, like 80% of the time, I'm not actually invested on the murder case that's been featured on the episode. A couple of reasons for that. First, we all know that the characters involved in that episode won't likely appear on the next episode, or the actual crime in itself has none to little impact on the overarching arc for the season. And second, the formula starts to be predictable. By the last 10 minutes or so, a new evidence or piece of information comes into the light that the viewers have no way of knowing of. So really, there's no good way for the viewers to deduce which among the cast featured in that episode is the perpetrator. I think it rubs off the engagement aspect of it. On the other hand, there are pros to this format. Aside from adding flavor and changing the setting of the episodes, the show benefits a lot from the body cop comedy dynamic between Detective Decker and Lucifer, which I think remains to be the strength of the series. But with 5 seasons now, you can surely feel the strain of the narrative structure. That is why I like season 4, because there's less episodic approach, there's less case of the week, and they were able to explore more on the supernatural aspects of the show, which I hope that they were able to continue on season 5. Season 5 actually plays more on the charms of the seasons 1 to 3. I think it will work for the huge fan base of Lucifer. However, in terms of plot progression, I think it's an ultimate step back. Sure, there are a couple of episodes to mix up the formulaic structure. There's episode 1, which is actually promising because Lucifer and Detective Decker are solving the same crime on 2 different planes. That is Detective Decker being on Earth and Lucifer being on Hell. And on episode 3, there's a meta episode where a crime is committed on a Lucifer parody show, so expect a lot of irreverent and self-referential humor on that. But the most experimental one would have to be episode 4, where it's inspired by a 1940s noir musical film, which seems to be a filler episode at first, but really it's a genius way of introducing a backstory for one of the characters. But even with the gimmick in these episodes, the magic doesn't really last long. What I hope for in this series is that they maybe swap this individual episodic murder cases for an overarching murder case plot, just like in the case of Mindhunter, where there is an episodic case and an overarching case, or better yet, integrate the murder cases to the supernatural elements, just like what they do in the show Grimm. It will be a good idea because finally the supernatural facet into it will no longer be a second fiddle, because that's the more interesting aspect of the show. I mean, sure, there's an overarching arc for this season which is normally tied up to the villain of the season. In season 4, there's Eve, the first woman who's supposedly led to be the villain of the season, which I like that they made a twist on that because the role eventually landed to Father Kingsley and his desire to purge Lucifer and his demons out of this world. For season 5, however, we are dealt with Michael, who I think is the weakest and the least compelling villain of the show so far, and it has nothing to do with the performance of Tom Ellis, though I think that seeing him delivering an American accent feels jarring. Maybe I've just got so used to see Tom Ellis in his particular brand of British accent that seeing him doing an entire character feels like an act, and it kind of takes you out of it. But once you've grown past that, it gets much better. My problem actually is the fact that he disappeared midway through the series and pops back again with his motivations not really explained, apart from that he's jealous of Lucifer. For sure, the second part of season 5 will deal more on that, but right now, having a weak villain kind of drags down the whole season. There's not much urgency and stakes to the plot, which contributed to the sluggish pacing that I felt. So overall, season 5 relies on the same formula that the first few seasons had, which I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. However, it feels like a step back when it comes to evolving the plot. The show remains to be watchable. There's a lot of cool action sequences, the random musical numbers, and the guilty pleasure humor and romance are there, which surely be a delight to the fan base. Come to think of it, the decision to split it into 2 parts kind of dragged this season. Sure, from a producer's standpoint, it only makes sense since this has a really strong fan base and more episodes mean more hype and more anticipation. So that's a smart move for them. However, I don't want this show to turn into something that's very tedious and safe, which I felt what season 3 was because of its overlong 26 episodes. Anyway, I'm not that disappointed on the ending of the first part of season 5 because there's a big cliffhanger moment that happens towards the end that I've been waiting since the second season, and when that moment happened, I got excited because they're finally dealing with a plot that's been overlong due by now. Okay, I know that I'm not supposed to give out a grade until the end of the season, but I guess I'm going to give one right now and average it with the second half that I'm going to review next year, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm gonna give this part 1 of season 5 of Lucifer a 3.5 out of 5. So there you go, that's my review for the latest season of Lucifer. Do you agree with my take? Comment down below, and also, if you enjoyed watching this video, give us a like. Please consider subscribing to Screen Kings for weekly reviews on movies, TV, and video games. Thank you so much for watching. Till then guys, see you on the next one.